All right. Hey, everybody, it's Friday. Welcome to Grove Sessions. My name is Rick Coughlin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Grove Studios. I'm super excited about today's session. It's been a long week. It's been an interesting year, and we're here with Grove Sessions, and we founded Grove Studios. We're over on Railroad Street in Ypsilanti. We have a grand vision to have creative studios all over the United States and all over the world. But more importantly, the reason we founded Grove was to enable people to create music and share their voices with the world, because what we believe is that enabling voices and creating music makes the world a better place. And that's basically what we're all about, making the world a better place. That's part of our core values. And today is no different. We're bringing an artist on. We premiered a video just at 7:00 today on Facebook and YouTube. None other than Dani Darling. Super excited. Dani was one of our first guests on Grove Sessions back when in March, when the quarantine and the shutdown started. And man, that was a rough time. But Dani was one of our first guests, and she totally crushed it, as she always does. She's one of our favorite people, one of our favorite artists, and we're just really excited to have her on. I just want to say a couple brief things. You know, Dani started out in a reggae band back in the day, spent some time collaborating with King Jazzy B, later kind of transformed into Soul Galaxy Girl. For the hip hop collective Black Opera, which was a spin out of Athletic Mike League. So if you know Athletic Mike League, if you've been in the Washtenaw County area, you know who the fuck that is, and how sick all those guys are. And it's just so cool to see all of these spin-off projects and everything like that. But somewhere, and this was written in a recent blog post on Dani, somewhere between lo-fi, R&B, chill wave, and REM sleep. I love it. I got to pull a quote out because
Milo.
I appreciate how people attack, capturing what an artist does, and it connected with me, so I had to pull it out. And all of that kind of came together on your debut EP, Nocturne, which was inspired by a dream sequence that you had, and that's super cool. And you and your band really, like, you've just got this vibe, and every time I see you guys perform, you do this thing, and it's unique and it's special. And I know all of us here at Grove Studios really love it. And I, based on all the write-ups and the shows and things you've been doing, even during quarantine, it's really clear that people connect with what you're doing, and I love that. Like, that excites me. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for letting us put you on. Recently you've been doing shows, right? I'm always interested in how people are doing shows right now, because we all, like, as musicians, we know it's difficult, and as music fans, we know it's maybe even more difficult, because it's like, how the hell do we go to shows and enjoy ourselves when we feel a little bit afraid to do that? But you just had a show at the Detroit Shipping Company, which is just down the street in Detroit, and it's a super cool venue. I've been there before. How did the show go? What was that experience like?
The Detroit Shipping Company was really, really cool. It's outdoors, so like you're on a stage, but there's like an open like atrium, and like the bars are on the side, and then like picnic tables. And there was social distancing. So I don't really say yes to any shows that aren't in outdoors for now. So I don't know what's going to happen in the fall when it gets cold. But for now, we've only been saying yes to live shows that are outdoors, just because of the safety factor. But Detroit Shipping Company was amazing. I would say the only hard part about it was that it was 2 nights, 3-hour sets each night. And when I said yes, I was like, I could do this. I got
That's
this.
incredible.
And then when I was like, wait, 3 hours is a really, really long time. So
Yeah,
it was a challenge, but it was a really great learning experience. But what was crazy was when we left after the last show on Saturday night, we were leaving, and I'm seeing all these helicopters and these planes and stuff. And I'm like, what's going on? And Nora's like, it's the feds. And that was before that big kind of run-in with the Detroit police and the federal troops and the Detroit Will Breathe group. And it was pretty scary. It was pretty scary. So that night was very interesting. I got out of there immediately, but it was a night to remember for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, how does it feel, like, even though you are, you know, not able to do as many shows as you used to, you know, how does it feel to be able to get out there and perform like a legit real show during this time, you know?
Amazing. It just, I feel really grateful. I think gratitude is the biggest word that I can use to describe it, because at the beginning of the year, we had all these shows lined up. Like, it was supposed to be a really, really big year. And then, you know, COVID hit, and it was like, at first we didn't know if we were going to play any shows at all. Like, we didn't know what was coming, you know, in the future. So I think there's still that same kind of feeling like this could be the last time, or like just really, really grateful every time we get up there, because we don't know when the next one's coming, and we don't know, everything's uncertain. So I think gratitude is the biggest thing. Gratitude for the people in the audience, for the people watching at home, for the crews, and just for the people who have been gracious enough to give us the opportunity. It's just been a life-changing thing, because the music really kept me going. So without it, it was a sad situation.
Yeah.
That's so true. So
Awesome.
true.
Yeah.
I like how I like your mention of gratitude, you know, because that's something that I've been really trying to embrace, like daily, you know, recently. And is that something that that you've always had, like, a lot of gratitude, or is that a more like recent development in, you know, how you view things, or talk about that a bit?
I think that with my background, it was kind of like for me, like coming from a group with my sisters, and then, you know, with King Jazzy and the Black Opera. And when I went out on my own, it was kind of like, I didn't know, kind of the same scenario. I didn't know if that was going to pan out and be anything or not. So it was kind of like, from the beginning of my journey as Dani Darling, I just kind of was like, this is a stepping out on faith, last ditch effort to do music. And I feel like ever since I started with, you know, Dani Darling and the band, of being a solo artist, everything from then has been a huge exercise in gratitude, because I never expected any of it. Like, I started out doing open mics by myself with my acoustic guitar, and then everything just happened. So I felt like, you know, the gratitude that I had, even from the very beginning, was like, the more I had, the more happened. So it's been an ongoing, growing thing. Like, I believe in the law of attraction, you know, like what you think and what you believe in will come to you. And that's one of the main things they say is that fuels that energy is being grateful for the things you have, even if you don't have it yet. So it's a big theme in my life, for sure.
Yeah. No, I really like that, because, you know, if you're not grateful for what you have, like, why would more come, you know? But if you're grateful for everything that you have, and you can say, like, no, this is what, like, I'm so happy to have this, you know, I would love to have more of this, and I'm so grateful, then yeah, it's like it opens the floodgates, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it shows appreciation. I mean, my parents always taught me, ever since I was a kid, like, saying thank you is like one of the most important things, you know, and so, you know, saying, why not just say thank you, like, to the universe and for your situation, you know? And that's, I love that. Is there anything else, like, you talk about the law of attraction, and, you know, is there anything else that you do specifically to help you realize your goals that you have in the future?
Well, prayer makes a big difference. I think also like manifesting, like
Totally froze.
My friend Connie Constance from Mega Melanin, shout out to her. CJ Renee. I've got a couple friends that are kind of like a close group of, I call them my mystic sisters, and we kind of like hold each other up and like and encouragement and ideas and just kind of like agreeing with each other on things that we hope to happen in the future. And it's been really helpful. My sisters as well, like they're a huge support system for me. Actually, like a incomparable energy in my life. So I'd say that all goes along with it. Also, my best friend Nora, she's been like my number one from day one. So I'd say all of that really has helped. Joel as well, he helps with the songwriting, and as he was the last one kind of in our original group. And then as time has gone on, we've just gotten closer and gotten more like in tune musically. And I just feel like he's one of my musical soulmates. So it's been a lot of different things that help. It's a group effort. It's really a community thing. I'm an astrologer, so a lot of my planets are in my 11th house of community and friends. So I really think that's been the difference for me.
Yeah, I like your mention of friends and community and stuff. I mean, that's something that's been a struggle for me too. Sometimes is like just getting so busy and just working so hard that I don't put the energy into like my relationships that I need to like maintain them and keep a close relationship with people. And I think just having that community that you can trust and that you can, speak things to and talk about ideas with and you can really trust that they're going to be real with you and not sugarcoat things and stuff like that. I think that's super important. So I like that. And certainly, whatever you've been doing to manifest your success in the music industry has been working pretty well so far. And another thing that you did was the Detroit Music Weekend. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the Detroit Music Weekend was a great opportunity because it was kind of like the first big show we did in Detroit. Shout out to Jerry Zonka for helping me with the opportunity. I've been working with him a little bit on marketing and such, and that was just a great show just because it was in Detroit. Like we were right next to the like Stevie Wonder mural at the Detroit City Hall, and it was just wonderful. I had a keys player back out like right before the show, and at the last minute, a good friend of mine, Joel Fluent Green, he's a great poet and he does events in Detroit. He's hired us to play Aretha's Jazz Cafe in the past. And, I ran into him and I was like distraught. I'm like, my keys player flaked on me. He's like, my dad plays keys. He's here. And I was like, really? And he's like, yep. And so at the last minute, his dad came up. He was like, what keys it in, And it turns out this guy is like a Detroit legend. Like once he started playing like with the bossa nova, we just let him go on a solo. We were like, no, don't stop, just let him go. It was just really amazing. So it was a great opportunity. It was a great show and really, really grateful for that opportunity in Detroit.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's kind of another like stars aligning type of thing, where there was just someone there that you could trust. And because it's hard to trust another musician, with your music, especially in like a live environment, especially when it's a big deal.
For sure. And not everybody can play by ear like that, it was amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. And another thing that you did that was super incredible that I saw was the Ann Arbor Summer Festival performance. You got to perform in the amphitheater at, I think it's like what is the park called? West Park.
West Park.
Yeah. How was that experience?
I would say that was probably the highlight of my summer. We just we had an amazing time. It was the most beautiful night. It was like a dream. And like, there were, it was limited seating. The tickets sold out within like, I think less than 48 hours. And I just had a really great crew of instrumentalists and, you know, some new faces and some new songs we were doing. And I had 2 harmony singers. So we just like did it as big as possible because it's like, this is probably the, you know, the last hurrah here maybe. So we really did it up, and it was beautiful. The sound, everything, much like the show that was premiered tonight. It was just the sound and everything was great. And fun fact: Grateful Dead played that same stage on the same day in 1967. So it's like,
that's incredible.
So exciting! Somebody sent me a picture of it too. Like it was just crazy. It was amazing.
Did you know that before you went on stage, or did you find out after?
One of the stage guys told me after we got done playing, when we were like wrapping up our chords and stuff, he's like, you know, Grateful Dead played. I was like, what, man, what? So we didn't know until after we did the show, but yeah, it was, I think the whole crew knew and they were excited to tell me about it. Maybe I would have been more nervous if they had said something before.
You would have been feeling that energy up there on stage.
Like, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
We're talking about
I felt it anyway, though. Like, it was amazing.
That's incredible. And I think, honestly, you're super lucky to be able, I've always wanted to be able to perform on that stage, and I don't even know how. I mean, obviously the Ann Arbor Summer Festival is very plugged in with the Ann Arbor, you know, politics and stuff or whatever. But, you know, I've looked into playing shows on that stage, and, you know, you normally can't like link up, you know, speakers and stuff like that there. I don't know if they changed, you know, going into the future. I hope so, because I would love to throw a show there. I know Grove Studios would love to throw a show there. Super dope. So that's awesome. That able to do that. How many people did like they actually have in attendance there?
We only had a room for 100 people. So once those 100 people filled up, we had also a waiting list of like 70 or so people, just kind of like in case people didn't show up, they could, you know, potentially get in. But yeah, it was 100 guests, and everyone was spaced out in the audience. So it was really lovely.
And that's awesome. And they have like, I love how they have like the different like levels of like the seating there and stuff. It's such a dope area, and you're like right next to downtown.
And I had never been to that park before. I'm a townie, but I grew up in Georgetown, so I'm like, wow, this is really beautiful. You know, like it was cool.
I grew up kind of on that side of town, like on the west side, like off Newport Road and like Miller Road.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, by Miller. I used to live by Maple and Miller briefly as an adult, but that's a nice area.
Yeah, it was sweet growing up over there, and that's so dope that you were able to do that. And another dope, amazing show experience in Ann Arbor. You know, you have a show coming up at the Arc. When is that happening? And talk to us a little bit about that.
So that will be happening on September 22nd. Tune in. We will be playing for a 1-hour live stream for the Arc. And it's going to be a great event. It's going to be some jams. I'm thinking of some new songs, covers to do. So trying to always kind of change things up a little bit, since we're doing these live streams. You don't want to just keep doing the same songs over and over again. So it's going to be a fun show, just because, you know, we'll be back at it again, and some new stuff. Got a fun new cover I'm excited about, so it'll be like along the same lines of Fleetwood Mac Dreams. Like if you like that one, you already love this one.
That's exciting, because I mean, as much as I love your original music, right? You always do some really choice covers, and they, in some ways, I don't know, feel unexpected in some way, right? Like, and I don't know why they feel unexpected, but like the Fleetwood Mac cover, for example, right? Like that's such a classic song. But I honestly I don't feel like a lot of people cover it, and you do it, and you do it differently, right? Like you're not trying to sound like Fleetwood Mac. You sound like you, and your band sounds like your band. And I've always been a big fan of the idea of artistic reinterpretation. I have a whole playlist on Spotify called Under the Covers. That's just cover songs that I really truly appreciate, because the artist has they've done it differently in a way that, I mean, some of my favorite covers, they've taken the song and it just sounds totally different. And it's cool because, you work with a diverse group of musicians, like from a skill set standpoint. And I know they come from like different musical worlds, and I love the way it all comes together with you guys. But I'm curious, before we get into some of your original stuff, because you mentioned covers, like, how do you arrive at covers? Is it like, do you get pumped about a cover and bring it to the band, or does everybody kind of go, like, is it loose? Does everybody bring it to the table and go, I think we should do this cover?
It's kind of loose. I think I obviously have like songs where I'm like, oh, we have to do this. But then sometimes, you pick a cover and then you try it at rehearsal and we're like, so it's kind of like a trial and error. We all kind of have our ideas and then we try things, and then certain things are better than others. I would say that Joel is a really good one with a good ear for songs that would sound good with my voice and work well with the group. Like, he's the one who brought Weird Fishes, and I think as far as the covers, it's basically been mostly me and him that come up with the with what covers to do. But a lot of them are just, everybody suggests stuff and then we try them, and then some things work and then some things don't. So it's a trial and error as well as everybody just kind of throwing out ideas.
I'm super curious now. What's a cover that somebody brought to the table and you guys tried it out and everybody was like, no,
there was like an Usher, Chris wanted to do an Usher song and we were like, you make me want to leave. I mean, it was cool. Like, we had so much fun. Like, we goof off in rehearsals. Like, we have so much fun, like, trying different stuff, but like certain things just didn't work out as well. Like, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily an R&B vocalist per se, in terms of what people expect typically. So like some of those ideas were just kind of didn't pan out just because like it's not as suited for my voice. What's another one that we tried? I think some of the Nirvana stuff just didn't didn't translate either. Like, I really wanted to make About a Girl work, but eventually and I kept trying and finally Joel was like, Dani, and I'm like, I know, just let it go.
I like the idea though of doing some more harder grungy type song.
I love it. I'm a 90s
like
kid,
your kind of style, like chill.
I
love that
sure.
idea.
It
can work. That path for sure. I like
we'll
that.
Keep trying. We'll keep trying.
That's right. Just keep trying. You got to keep.
You got to land on the right
there.
one. Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Throw. Sometimes I don't know. Like, as an artist, you got to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, see what sticks. It's
kind of like
you
don't know.
Yeah, and they can be iconic. With like Lauryn Hill doing Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly. Like, you have those moments where you just get the magic,
Yeah.
So you
that's
gotta
one of
try
the best covers ever, by the way. I love that cover. Absolutely. Like of all time, like one of the greatest covers. So
yes,
I'm a big fan of covers, especially when you're trying to attack it in that way. I think that's one of the things I appreciate about you and your band is that you guys are like doing that, and that's cool. And then you spin over into your original music, right? Which is super cool. And your latest single, which is the S, I'm probably saying it wrong, S and M, S plus M, but it's about social media and the quarantine. I mean, I'm hearing more and more songs that kind of are referencing like this time in history that we're all experiencing together. And I thought it was really cool that you released a song referencing that. So I'm really curious, like, give us some background on like how that song came to be and what made you feel compelled to put it out. I mean, obviously the quarantine, but
so we were getting ready to start recording the new EP, And right, I want to say after like our second studio session, COVID hit, and it was like everything was at a standstill. The shows were gone. It was just, and I had kind of a personal crisis just because like I had been working so hard since 2018. Like my goal was to make the MetroTimes list and to get, I wanted to like really, like I want a Grammy. I had like all these big dreams, and like I felt like I was like getting closer and closer, and then all this shit happened. And so first it took me a while to pick myself up off the ground and figure out, where my life was going to go, I think. And it was very scary. And you're like, okay, do I want to try and get into this like going live rat race, or, what do you do? Everybody's going live. And like, it just felt like oversaturation almost. And it just, I felt like I was glued to my phone. Like, so what I started doing was I was like, we can't keep going in the studio. This is going to have to change somehow. So I started listening back to the songs I wrote and to what we had been able to capture in the studio, and started kind of doing my own like bedroom pop thing again, like I did for Nocturnes. Like this upcoming EP was supposed to be like the next, a different process than I did for Nocturne. But it turned out being a very similar process. And I wonder if that just means the universe wants me to keep like tinkering away in my bedroom because that's what I ended up doing. And with S&M, it was like one night I just started writing about my frustrations, about how like lost I was feeling, like in this sea of like likes and, trying to get traction, trying to get people to pay attention to you. And it's just kind of like, it kind of started to feel like, when I say S&M, it's like a double entendre, because I do think that the internet can bring out the worst in people. Like when you're behind a screen, suddenly like you see people's more sadistic sides, and then you see people's more masochistic sides. Like, don't go, dig that deep in your crush's Instagram if you don't want to see something you're not like, like things that you're like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't stop. So I think the internet kind of provides that avenue for unhealthy behavior or unhealthy connections with your phone, or with social media, or with accolades or popularity. And I was starting to kind of cave under the pressure of it all at the beginning. So that song came out of that. And then I just found this beat, and I hit up the guy and was like, hey, can I buy this? And then I just recorded it, and the rest is history. So
what made you like, I love the beat, I love how it's more of kind of like a new age hip hop style type. What made you make the decision to go in that direction, as opposed to just the traditional drums, bass,
live music? Yeah. I think I've always had that, also that inclination. Like when I did the Black Opera, we were mostly doing stuff to like produce tracks. I worked with Majestic Legend was the producer for Black Opera, and he was really amazing. And seeing the way he navigated Ableton and like all of that, I had that background, even though I knew that once I started the band, I wanted to kind of venture away from that. It took me going away from it to realize that like I still had that in me. And I think, like when it comes to people talking about my artistry, I'm kind of all over the place, but it all kind of still makes sense. Sure. I think when it came down to that, it's like when I was more limited in what I was able to do, because we weren't going to be able to go into the studio and all record it and do it the same way I had hoped to do it. So at that point I was thinking, if we're not going to be able to do all of these songs that I wanted to do, what would we do instead? So this upcoming project is kind of a mixture of both. I've got some stuff that we recorded live before it was too late. And then I've got, stuff that I was able to put together during the quarantine. There's one where I was working with DJ Slowpoke. I don't know if you know him from, he used to DJ at 734 Brewing, a really amazing lo-fi producer. And so we worked on a song on the album together too. So that one was almost a mixture of both processes, because I did a guitar part, sent it to him, he did a beat, sent it back to me. And then, so like, it was me figuring out ways to kind of make a project happen even during quarantine. And I think it actually ended up being more the theme of the whole project, really, is kind of thinking about like how we make it through really, really tough stuff like that, you know?
Well, and I think that's amazing, because I think we're all personally aware of people that, I mean, we've all had some struggles during this time, right? Like there's been extra stress and there's been lots of challenges, and the fact that you kind of doubled down and said, I'm gonna do this anyway. I think that's really inspiring for people to hear. And there's still challenges ahead, right? Like there's still things that are challenging, especially in the music industry, right? Like that is clearly a challenge. I love the fact that you kind of like doubled down and said, I'm gonna do this project anyway and move forward. And I think a lot of times people don't recognize how much musicians and artists like you are really entrepreneurs at heart. And you look at problems and you go, I'm going to solve it and I'm going to do it. And I think that's what's going to bring you success.
Thank you. I hope so.
Mindset really like is pervasive. Like ever since we started talking today, I hear that mindset, and you've applied it to music in a really great way. Like, and what's so cool is that I think you bring a lot of people joy as you're doing it. People get to watch you doing it, and you're putting yourself out there. The recording process is so interesting, like passing these things back and forth, and like it's a ton of work. I mean, like it's harder now, right? Like
absolutely.
He has to record something and they have to send it back to you, and how do we send it? What is that? Talk a little bit more about that process. Like, what are some of the challenges or even tips? Because I think there's people that are going to watch and listen and go, that's cool. How do I do that?
I would say my number one tip for recording is start learning a microphone as if it's a whole other instrument. It's different than when you're singing live. It's different than, when you're singing without a mic. So like I started out in music theater and choir. So there's all different things you have to take into consideration. But if you're a vocalist, learn the mic, how close, how far, things like that.
So important.
And if you learn how to do it, then it'll help you get what you want out of it. But on the flip side of that, find your comfortability level. I think I mentioned in the last interview we did that I get studio fright. So I can get on a stage fine, but if we get in the studio and everyone's got the headphones on and it's just my voice, it's just I feel very, very anxious.
I feel that on a heavy level.
You feel more comfortable.
I get that.
If you had your own professional vocal booth at your house, would that be your ideal setup?
So that's what ended up happening is even with the few songs that we were able to record before COVID, after the first song we did together, I was I don't like this singing in front of in front of the whole group, and the engineers and everything. It's just my anxiety level was up. And so what we did the next couple times is I said, I'd rather us do the instrumental, and then I'll take this home and I will work on the vocals in my own, because I have my own setup here. So I think that's been a saving grace, is that I had my own kind of setup, and I learned how to do that via the Black Opera and those guys. And I think honestly there was some relief in when we did have to go in the stay at home. It was okay, well, I guess I'm back to being in my room with my microphone. But in some ways it was a comfortability level too, because you're just I kind of just flow off my own creativity, and you're the captain of your own ship. So I think if anything, find a way that you're comfortable recording. And when it comes to sending things back and forth, always use a metronome because we had some intense struggles because we did not in a couple instances, and it was very hard to come back from that error. So that would be a big another tip for recording purposes.
Yeah. I mean, I know people hate the click track. You know, it's
it's maddening.
But you know what is
gotta do it.
Makes a ton of sense. You know, like sometimes as we've been talking this whole time, I was like, and you mentioned astrology earlier, so maybe this is a little left field, but are you a Pisces by any chance? Like,
no.
You've got. I was like, I recognize some of those traits. I wonder if you're like bordering on Pisces or something, because I understand the whole like holing up and like wanting to just do it. Like sometimes I'd rather. If you could just send me the thing and I could just like hole up and do the guitar tracks with nobody around, I would do it that way. So I totally relate.
It's interesting. No, I am not a Pisces. I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
But Gemini and Pisces are the two twins. So Gemini is the sign of the twins, and Pisces is the sign of the twin fish. So they actually do have a lot of similarities in the duality. And in that way, you know, you're able to be like, for example, you're out in front of everything. Like you've got Grove Studios, you've got the day nights, like all that. And then in some ways you can also be introverted. So I think that duality is something that comes across with both signs, which is why some people do read both similarly, but also I think nurture and nature are very, they're both equally as important. And my father and my grandfather are both Pisces. So
there you go.
I don't know. I posted a video yesterday of me and my sisters at our first birthday. We're in this like playpen. And my dad comes up to the playpen and he sings this song, Must Have Been a Party, this like country song. And we are just going in singing and like, la, 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 la. And people are like, oh, they're harmonizing. But like, even from then, my dad is a very whimsical, musical, dreamy sort of guy. So I think that kind of definitely rubbed off on me. So I do have some Pisces influence for sure.
Nice. Yeah. It's funny that I picked up on that because you know I noticed those things, and when people mention they're like I notice astrology or I follow it. It's like it connects. So that's very cool. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were kind of talking about your recording process, and you know, along with the song that you just released, like the video felt like really powerful, but also simple, right? Like from a videography standpoint, but it had a great look to it. And like, did you do all of that yourself in your home, or how did that come about? Talk to us about that process.
Yeah, so I knew what I wanted to do for that particular song. I knew I wanted to kind of have like a kind of stripped down like and more of a lo-fi approach to the video, just because I feel like my first video 222 was so amazingly polished and crisp, and it was beautiful, and it was nominated, it was selected by the A2 Tech Film Festival in 2019.
Great
it
video.
Was and it was shot by Sai Abdelnour, who just got done working on the new Big Sean video. Like, he is the best in the game. But I wanted to do something that was a departure from that, especially because of the quarantine. It's kind of like, I feel like because of the pandemic, it's kind of like things like all of that polish and that fanfare. And I kind of feel like it's maybe the end of idol worship and celebrity, all this like, idolizing celebs for the sake of, being celebrities. And I felt like since we are kind of moving back into like a more stripped down, like everybody's at home, so it's not, it was something I felt like people could relate to. So I knew I wanted to do a time lapse of me, a day in the life, or like an evening, just kind of like being stuck where you can't do anything. I usually have a lot of shows every weekend or rehearsals, and all of a sudden you're stuck on the couch. So I knew I wanted to make that happen. but I had to do some research on how to do a time-lapse video. And even though I had done research, it was definitely much different in practice than what I thought. So like I figured out how to do the time lapse. I set up the camera. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like, fuck around on my phone and my computer and like, do this, and then it'll speed up. And so I'm doing that for like a good hour and 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, because I like after a while you're like, okay, you can't really, get up and move or, things like that. So I'm like, that should be good. And I go back to the camera and I see that I've got maybe 40 actual seconds of time lapse footage from that hour and a half. And I was like, oh, wow. So this is going to take me all night. So it was quite the process, and it was quite funny actually, just because I was like, oh wow, I'm stuck here for another 4 hours. Like, girl, have a seat, get comfy. So it was really a practice in patience, because with my attention deficit, I was like, all right, I'm gonna bunker down and finish this tonight. So it was an interesting process.
How long? Yeah. So did it end up taking you like 5
about
hours?
5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. About 5 hours for about almost 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just to capture the raw footage, right?
Yeah, about 3 to get 3 minutes of time lapse. Yeah.
The post-production.
Yeah, and so with post-production, I did that myself. And that took me quite a while, but I figured it out. And I think actually post-production wasn't as hard as the actual shooting of it. I am kind of like a tinkerer, jack of all trades anyway. So when it comes to things like that, I've been doing my own social media. I used to do social media for other people, other groups, and in other occupations that I had. So working my way around some of this stuff is not necessarily a new thing. But it was definitely a learning experience. I think next time I do a video, I'm gonna have somebody do it for me.
It's a lot of work.
It is. It is. And that one, it just so happened that it paid off just because of the way, what I was trying to convey, I think still came across, and the way it came out, it turned out with the lo-fi. So yeah, it was basically a learning process, and yeah, I did most of it myself.
Yeah,
with help from some people.
I love the look of it. Totally just matched, just the feel of how everyone's feeling right now. And I really like how you encapsulated, society and culture right now, and how people are feeling, and put it into music. I mean, that's a powerful tool that artists have, that artists can do, that not a lot of people have the skill or the ability to just translate like a time period into a piece of music like that. That's really dope. And I liked how you had like the lyrics displayed on the video. I kind of like it made me feel closer to the lyrics. I feel like I was really hearing what you were saying and understanding it. And one thing that stood out to me was the part that you said, like, why you like to watch me cry, talking about that. So where did like that kind of inspiration come from for that line?
I think so like I'm a very emotional person, I would say, and it's no secret that I've always kind of struggled with anxiety and depression. And that's doing music has been a big way to work through a lot of that. And so it's a subject matter that I tackle a lot in my music. And so I think what that was about is that for me, like with my anxiety, I think one way that I noticed that it started to matriculate or manifest itself is like with crying. So I think I had a really, really close friend pass away last October. Her name's Audrey. And I think, that whole scenario, and even before that, I had started kind of noticing that, like, for me, like when I get on stage or like get really like moved, or like when I had something going on, like, you know, in my personal life or something, like rehearsals. I mean, Nora and Joel and Chris will tell you, like, I'll be in the middle of a song and just like start crying, and then I'm like, wait, we gotta start over. And so I think I started to realize that, like, you know, I didn't like, you know, in the middle of a song crying uncontrollably. Like I did at the Juneteenth show, but that was because of like Black Lives Matter. It was very emotional. So like that is okay. But I started to feel like maybe this isn't just about being sad or being emotional. And I started to realize that like the tears or the excessive crying that was starting to happen a lot in my life in that time period was maybe something else. So I started reading up on it. It turns out that it is one of the symptoms of severe anxiety. And so I realized that it wasn't necessarily a good thing all the time. And also I kind of feel like whenever drama's going on, or like you're emotional, or people are seeing you be like messy, you know, on the internet, it kind of brings more people, because people like to watch a show or watch a spectacle. So like if I'm, you know, in my stories crying, or, you know, stuff like that, it just seemed like you just get more people want to see. And I don't know if it's because they actually care or because it's entertainment, or it may be a little bit of both. But I just started to feel, I don't know, the line just kind of popped out at me, because it just seemed like, okay, when I say tune in for this, people are like, maybe a few will trickle in. But if I'm like, falling apart, my story, all of a sudden it's like all these eyes, you know, like
it's
all
so
these viewers.
It's so true. And here's, I guess this is my take on it, and I totally appreciate where you're coming from. And I've struggled with many of those things myself. It's a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't talk about it. You know, it's the old, you know, the unspoken and whatever. And I think, you know, what excites me and makes me excited in general is that people are talking more about it. People are becoming more comfortable and kind of addressing the issues, and like, how can we solve it? And furthermore, like your willingness to share these kinds of things in a public forum, like it's one thing, of course, like the sort of like, oh, so and so is this, or they're doing that, or whatever, like that's always going to be a thing, right? Like there's a sensationalism kind of thing to it. But I think more importantly, like people are looking for a connection, and they look, you know, they might look at an artist like you've got a lot going for you, right? You're talented. You write great songs. You're putting out great content. You're playing really cool shows. You're beautiful. You're smart. You're funny. You've got all this stuff. And I think people want to hear that somebody else on the other side of the screen is real in the same way that they feel their realness. And so if you're willing to share your story and talk about real issues, right? You want to talk about Black Lives Matter. You want to talk about depression and anxiety, like people connect with that. And that is not just marketing, but it's real. And I think that's really cool. Like being honest with your audience. And I think that's one of the ways that you have this ability to connect with people, because you are a real person. And I've worked with you live. I've seen you in live situations, and it's fun because I've noticed, just being the Gemini Pisces kind of thing going on, you're very focused when you're live, right? Like live shows, you're like about business. You want to make sure things are going right, and that's not you being, you know, like everybody's here to serve me. It's like you want it to be good for your audience, and that matters. And so I appreciate that, you know, and I think it ties into what you're doing on social media.
Absolutely.
I definitely just wanted to tell you that, because you seem to, along with your music, like there is a message behind what you're doing. And you've got threads of things that are happening, but like, if you could articulate those messages and those threads, like in your personal, your writing, your music, your video content and everything, like what are some of those key threads and things that are important to you to share with people?
Like when I first started, like the Dani Darling thing, I was like, okay, I wrote out a whole manifesto and everything. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. It's going to be called The Violet Life. And I did a series for this collective that I was a part of this past quarantine called Raise Karma, where we talked about spiritualism and art. And my segment was a 30-minute show every week called The Violet Life. But before that, I had come up with this concept of like, I wanted to have like 4 main like staples of things that I address. And that was empathy, love, courage, and color. And so I'd say I still kind of follow that blueprint, because I think, letting people in to know what you're feeling and being able to feel what other people are feeling is so important. And I think that even outside of creativity, just in everyday life, that's really important. And then just loving one another. And then also courage, because like I was saying, with anxiety, like stepping out, trying to do this art, like I was very, very, trepidatious about going out on my own. Like I started out in a group, like I was born into a choir. So being out on my own is like, it required quite a bit of courage. And I think that that's something that I hope to spread to people. Like, it's okay. We are all silly and ridiculous and amazing. So be as silly and ridiculous and amazing as you can, because that's just who you are. And color is just kind of put your own spin on it, or create, be creative and make it your own. So I think those 4 things have been everything that I do has somehow come around to one of those things, either overcoming my fears, trying to relate to people, trying to love, and trying to make it beautiful, like make it creative, or figure out how to make it, aesthetic, or just make it something that makes people stop and look, or make people stop and, like at a museum, or makes people kind of stop and notice it and see that what you were trying to do and how you were trying to do it. So
that's really cool.
Love that.
I like how solid you are with like your brand and your core values. That's something that we strongly feel at Grove Studios. Is a big part of what we do is we have a certain list of core values, and if something that we're doing doesn't, or if something we're thinking about doing doesn't align with our core values, then we don't do it. And so I love how you have those values, because it makes it so much easier to navigate the industry, navigate life, navigate your career, because you have kind of a roadmap of like, okay, this is what I'm about, and that's unshakable. I'm not going to change that for anything,
Absolutely.
And that's super dope. And also, not only do you have like a strong foundation of branding as far as like your values, but also like your sound, like even when you do a cover, or even when you lean more hip hop, or lean more R&B, or lean more just live band kind of stuff, like it always sounds like Dani Darling, and it always has that, spacey, just floaty, kind of sound that is iconic to what you do, and that no one else really, I haven't heard anything like it, especially not in this area or anything like that, So
Thank you.
How has this been just a process over time for you to reach this point, or is this something that has been like very solid in your head and in your goals, like ever since you created the Dani Darling persona?
I think before that, I was trying to find it. Before Dani Darling, I was trying to find my sound. When I was in the reggae band with King Jazzy, the bass player's name was Billie, and I was really close to him. His name was Billie the Kid, and we used to do covers, and he used to tell me, he was like, you sound just like Erykah Badu when you sing Bag Lady. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I just wonder what it would be like if you sang it the way you sing it. And I'm like, well, that is how I sing it. And so then I started realizing that I was very imitative. And I think once that happened and that one little thing he said, like, clicked with me, and I was just kind of like, who am I? So like, I think that happened right when I was starting to do music and learn how to do live performances. I was watching Jazzy perform and work a crowd and doing all that. But then I was also at the same time trying to figure out, like, what is my sound? I had done choral music, jazz music, trio stuff, gospel. And so I was kind of like, I've got all these influences, and it just felt really chaotic a little bit. So I think for me, it was stripping it back, just starting to do covers on my own with my guitar. And as I started doing more covers and more cover videos, I started figuring out how my vocal stylings were different, and how, like, when I did keep going and got a little more confident, they started to change from the originals that I was imitating. So I think that's how the sound came about. And that's when I started realizing and noticing what I liked about different things that I had learned along the way in my life, and what helped me as a musician, and what I liked most, and bring that into my aesthetic. So it's been a process over the years. And then one day I woke up and I was like, wow, I have my own sound. And it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
It wasn't overnight.
That's awesome. And I like, how, I mean, there is also still room for imitation, and still room to, take something from over here and take something from over here and mix it together, and let's see where that comes from. But there's so many people in the industry that just hear, the popular sound or a popular sound, and then try to imitate it. And then they're wondering why they're replaceable by, millions of other artists out there. There's no replacement for Dani Darling, because you built this real persona that no one else is. Like, you've created, like, yourself. You found yourself, really, and that is one of the most powerful things to have as an artist, because no one can take that away from you. And honestly, like, that's what the labels and that's what the industry and everything is. That's what they're trying to do anyways. They're just creating artists, creating brands. And if someone doesn't have, like, that solid identity, like, someone else is going to assign you that identity, and it's not going to be you. And you're going to have to play to that role, for your career. And so it gives you the power, when you create your own sound and your own leverage and your own platform and your own following, it gives you the power and the leverage to be able to negotiate good deals, and it gives you the sound that people gravitate towards, and they can't get anywhere else. So you really build real fans, So I love it. I love what you're doing, and you've been getting tons of great, write-ups and stuff in, the MetroTimes, and so many that I can't even keep track.
For real.
Give someone that wants to have some of the success that you've had, as far as, like, getting booked, getting write-ups, getting placements, stuff like that.
Yeah, and on that note, by the way, somebody just popped in on, we're streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Ellie Ream over on YouTube just mentioned that she doesn't have a question, but she said these are some inspiring people. So,
well, that's not.
I guess shout out to all of us.
Shout out,
we're inspiring too. So shout out.
You guys definitely are. Absolutely.
You are
Thank
too.
you for that comment. We appreciate that. I love that message, and I really I've been watching you perform for a number of years now, and have felt that, like, sort of, as I'm a musician, right? Like, I play in bands, I do the things, but I'm also a huge fan of music, and when I see people doing cool stuff, like, I'm enamored, and so I'm glad you took the time with us. What's coming, like, sort of next for you? What are your you've got this great vision. You've got these core values that are like rock solid, which I love. But like, what's next? I know it's a weird time, but what's happening?
It's hard to know what next. Homeschooling for one. There's that. So that's the big focus coming up, is that school starting, and these kids aren't going to school. So my daughter Eden is going to middle school, so we're going to be doing that. But then also for musically, I've got the ARC is coming up this month. The EP, it's called Violette, is going to be dropping in October, and hopefully I'll get a chance to promote it. After that, it's moving on to the next one. I'm already ready to start on the next EP, and then hopefully next year we can start to do some more shows and that. Like, I would really love to start doing bigger shows once shows are back. I would like to do more traveling to other places or tour. I want to do a European tour is really kind of at the top of my list. And yeah, I want to be a bigger name. I want more people to know Dani Darling. No one to Grammy. We're going all the way, man.
I'm confident you will be on so many levels. Honestly, I think that I love the European tour like goal, because, and I know I've got some friends down in Nashville and Austin and stuff, and I've seen them do that. So I know it's totally achievable, right? Like, you just have to make the plan and do it. They're gonna love you in Europe.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, for sure.
I did an open mic in Paris, and my sister was there with me, and we did 3 songs. And then after we were done, this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Do you have more songs? We'd love to see you play more songs." We ended up playing like 9 songs that night. They're like, "Do you have any more?" I'm like, "I'm all set. I can't do any more." But it was really, really fun. But I think they got a kick out of the accent too. So it was great fun. So hopefully more nights like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And do you, for someone that wants to do what you're doing, and what would you say would be your key tips, or your, the things that you've learned along the way to do or to not do that have helped you get to where you are?
Don't give up. Don't get bogged down, or don't get sidetracked from what other people are doing. I think that has been the main lesson that I've had to learn, is like tunnel vision. Like, there's an abundance in the universe. So if someone else is doing great, you could be doing that and some, and everyone can all be doing great. And it doesn't mean that it's taking away from anything else. The way abundance works is that it just becomes bigger and better and more people. So I think that the main thing I would say is, keep your eye on the prize and don't focus on what other people are doing. Focus on what you're doing, but then also stay organized. Make sure that you are really, really serious about the business side of things. Like, I'm not actually that business minded. I'm more of a creative person, but I had to out of necessity. So I think really kind of learning your craft, learning the business, asking questions, supporting others. I think that really is helpful too, with getting around and getting the word out about yourself, is to support others too. So I think, community. So I would say eye on the prize, don't focus on other people, but also support others. And I think just keep learning. If you make mistakes, don't give up, and patience, because I wanted everything to happen in 2018. I was like, let's go. And then I just remember Majestic Legend was like, it's a couple years out. And I was like, years? He was like, it'll go by fast. And I was like, no. So patience is a virtue. There are no overnight stars. It takes years to become an overnight celebrity. So,
and you don't want to be an overnight celebrity, because then
you're a flash
the
in the
rise
pan.
and the fall,
Yeah.
you don't have any real fans. If you allow like some channel or some label or to just put you on the platform, like you don't have any foundation to keep you lifted up after that platform isn't there anymore. You know, you'll just crash. And I love how you mentioned helping others. I mean, we've talked about gratitude, we've talked about community, and helping others, I think, is another extremely strong part of that puzzle, as far as like when I actually realized that helping others helped myself, that's when shit changed for me. Because I was like, we're all you know, selfish people. We need to feed ourselves. We need to eat. We gotta survive. Like, it's just deeply ingrained into our brains to be selfish and to care about ourselves and to care about our family. When you realize at the deepest level that helping other people actually does help yourself, like that's how you can be selfish in like your unselfishness. You get the best of both worlds, you know. I don't know. I really like helping others is huge, you know.
Yeah, and I really love what you said about the idea of abundance, right?
It's abundance,
it's you know, growing up in a, you know, I wouldn't say I grew up in a pretty solidly blue collar middle class family, but there are challenges there, right? And so figuring out that like that the idea of abundance, if I do that, if I work to help other people and I work to serve some of the greater good, and I do things that I'm also passionate about, like that brings greatness and wellness to more people, you know, if we can do that together. And I love the fact that you kind of approach your music and your brand in that way. And I think a lot of people do. They maybe don't always articulate it in that way, but I really appreciate the fact that you put it in that perspective. I think it's super helpful for people to hear over and over again, because I think we sometimes get stuck, especially as we've had these challenges over the last 5 or 6 months. You know, like how are we going to navigate this, and what are we going to do? And that was one of the things. And we were excited that when we said, "Hey, you want to come on our Grove Sessions thing for the first time?" You're like, "Yeah, I'll do that." You know, and we were struggling with like whatever.
With my broke amp and everything. It was
we were trying to figure it all out, but
that was way back in the day.
It was way back in the day. Moving it forward, because what I realized is that it's so important to keep doing what we're doing, and it's so important to keep doing what you're doing, and you bring a lot of joy to people doing what you're doing. Thank you. What Max was saying, like it's in some ways it's like it's self-serving, but it's also like recognizing that it helps people. I've always been one of those people that I've had certain albums or songs that have helped me navigate difficult times in my life. And I always like to ask that question, like, is there a record or an album or a song that helped you through a certain time in your life to get past things that you're challenged with?
I think there have been so many over the years, it's hard to really pinpoint one. I will say that for recently, I would say during this quarantine and COVID, I'd say maybe like a month or so ago, I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon with Noor, and I realized that I had never heard that whole thing all the way through. And I don't know if you've heard that project by Pink Floyd, but that one song where that lady's like, like when she's doing like the vocalizing, I was just like, oh my God, I feel this. So, and then the rest of the rest of the project, I'd say right now, like that has been, I keep going back to it, and it's an old album, it's a random album, but it's like, and you won't see me do any covers off of it because it's just too individual. But I think Dark Side of the Moon for me this past several months has been the game changer in my life, just because, especially with that song and the one right after that. But the thing is, it wasn't even about the words. She's just vocalizing, but it just, what she was singing and uttering was just everything that I was feeling. And so I think that, that song and that project have really gotten me through this quarantine process. It's just iconic. So, yeah.
Totally agree. I mean,
I can't remember the name of that song though.
I'm familiar with the album. Yeah, it's classic, but
I'm trying to remember the actual name of the song, but it'll come to me.
It will for sure. I guess you have to listen to it more.
I usually listen to them all together, but that's the one that stands out to me. But
I mean, the production on that album is incredible, and like it's super classic. So I love it. I love that you have all these different genre. I feel like a little bit kindred with you is that I have all these genre influences where I'm so inspired by so many different genres of music. And I don't consciously, it's like you don't consciously put them into your music sometimes, or you're not like, oh, I'm gonna try to do like Dark Side of the Moon thing. It just sort of comes out in what you do. And I hear that in your original music, and I think that's one of the things that I really love.
Thank you.
And like what's cool about that is that there's an uncertainty to that idea where it's like you might be blindsided by this new inspiration. Some of the new music that comes out, sometimes I get inspired by, where I'm like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be inspired. That my daughter's got a Taylor Swift record as a gift, and it's super fancy. It's in this like really nice packaging, and we busted it open last night, and I was like, wow, this is some of the nicest vinyl I've ever seen in my life. The vinyl's printed out and stuff like that. I've got these old like Bose speakers that I paid like $60 for, but they sound great. And they wanted to listen to records, and we put the record on and we listened to it, and it was like, it sounded great. The production was good, whether you like Taylor Swift or not.
I love Tay. That's Eden's favorite.
Yeah, I mean, but the production.
I have an 11-year-old, so
it sounded great on vinyl, and it was one of those moments where I was like unexpectedly inspired by this production and this artist that I respect, and that I've learned to, grown to love. But I love that you're open to that too, and I think that's what makes a great artist. And so there's an uncertainty with that, where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to be inspired by next. You're open to that. But my question is, and this is always a question I like to ask towards the end of an interview, but like a lot of things are uncertain right now because of COVID and just life in general, right? But what do you think is certain as we move forward, as you move forward? We give the wait time too, because it's always a heavy question. People are
one thing I'm certain of. Wow. And right now there's a lot to be uncertain about.
Yeah, that's
something that you're certain of, right?
What things am I certain of? I'm certain that humans will continue to feel and believe, and that will continue to be translated into art in a lot of different forms. And whatever happens with, COVID or this country, or, for Black people, I think the one thing that I know for sure is that there will be some kind of art surrounding it, and that it will continue to be the universal language that brings us all together. And in that way, I think that we'll never be, as separate as we really think we are. So I don't know. I'm certain of art, and I'm certain of love. So I think that's about it.
Love it.
I really appreciate that. And I, we didn't get into. There's a lot of topics I think we could get into, but I really appreciate.
I know we could talk all
you
night
bringing
long.
up. There's some important topics in there, like
for the next
your
one.
answer. So thank you for that. I think you're 100% right, and your positivity and your ability to bring people together, I think really shines. And I know we appreciate that. All of us at Grove Studios really appreciate that.
I love you guys.
And yeah, for sure.
love you too.
The love is the same, and we look forward to doing more projects with you, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight. We know you're a busy person too, and you've got a lot going on, so thank you for that.
Oh, and it's called The Great Gig in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
It's 4 minutes and 44 seconds, which I thought was cool. I'm in Angel Numbers.
Very
that was the song by Pink Floyd.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Everybody go out and listen to The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd on the Dark Side of the Moon
album. Listen to the whole album though.
That's one of your listening assignments tonight. The other listening assignment that you have, if you didn't catch the performance earlier when it debuted on Facebook and YouTube, you can go to Grove Studios on Facebook. You can go Grove Studios on YouTube, whatever platform you prefer. And that live performance is there in full HD reference. It's a fantastic performance. We were honored to have you at the studio that day. We look forward to having you again in the future.
Yeah.
And we can't wait for any of the new releases. So please let us know when the new stuff is coming out, and we will put it on blast for you.
Yeah. Great.
And shout out to Tim Blackman for the video.
Yeah, shout out to Tim.
Taylor Greenshield, Fundamental Sound Co. for the sound. It sounded incredible, looks incredible. Also, Sketch from YouTube wants to say, I can tell you are a nice person and that I always love singing. So I think I inspired some people tonight.
The kids are it's so cool because I can see I know some of these kids here, and then they're like playing Roblox, and they're like on YouTube, and they're watching the interview, and they're inspired by you. So that's cool.
Awesome. Keep going, keep dreaming.
Shout out to everyone that watched on YouTube too. Usually our biggest platform is Facebook, but we've been popping off on YouTube today. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Dani. Dani Darling, everyone. If you just happen to be tuning in, just an amazing artist from Ann Arbor, Michigan, Ann Arbor, Ypsi area. At Soul Galaxy Girl.
Yeah. On everything.
Instagram, on everything. I had Soul,
Instagram, Twitter, Girl. Snapchat. Yeah, that's my handle.
With the marketing acumen. Be the same on all platforms. At Soul Galaxy Girl. Check out the music. Look for the live shows. There are going to be some cool stuff coming up. So the ARC show is next, which is exciting. So follow the ARC page, follow Dani Darling, at Soul Galaxy Girl. And follow Grove Studios, because we're going to continue to post shows, post live streams, and do interviews. And we're looking forward to it.
You guys are on fire. Keep going.
So are you.
We appreciate that. So are you. It's good to be in the fire with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So burning up. For sure. And by the way, we've got some other things coming up very soon. We've got the Equinox party coming up on September 19th. It's going to be an epic day of music, socially distanced. We're going to have some different slots of music happening so people can come in and out of different segments of the show. We're going to be live streaming. We're going to be recording. We're going to be getting ready. I think, what do we have, like 10 bands or
we got 11 acts.
11
bands
throughout the day. So it's kind of like a festival.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're breaking up the acts. We have 3 different shows planned. So with like 3 or 4 artists per show, you can buy a ticket to each to like one show with 3 acts, or you can buy like a full day ticket to see the whole experience. It's going to be everyone socially distanced, safe. We're only selling like 15 tickets for each block.
Nice.
So there won't be very many people there, and it'll be a high quality event. We're gonna have, drinks, and we're trying to get some food there and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a great experience.
We're gonna have fun no matter what, and then we're gonna stream it live for people to enjoy that be there. So
you'll be selling
it's a magical astrological holiday. So there you go.
The stars will be in our favor. And tomorrow,
aligned.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we got a podcast with Joe Town, amazing, Motown singer-songwriter from Detroit, played behind some iconic, legendary acts, toured the world multiple times. He's come out with a new song that he hopes will help heal America. It's called "What Kind of America Do We Want to Be?" It's very, very poignant to this period in time, even though he wrote it and recorded it last year. So, we're talking with him tomorrow. He just recently had a stroke too, and he's really coming back. His recovery has been amazing. I mean, you talk to the guy and you would never even know. So we're really excited to talk to him in our podcast tomorrow at 2:00. So tune in for that.
Cool.
Tune in.
Thanks again, Dani. We appreciate
Thank
you.
Thanks, guys.
Grove Sessions, Dani Darling at Soul Galaxy Girl on all platforms. Check out all of her and her majestic band's music and enjoy it. And go back and check out the live performance because certainly was one of my favorite performances of the entire summer. So
Thanks
again, everybody.
Thanks
for tuning in. Grove Sessions.